What's going on, guys? I am so excited about today's video because I'm going to show you the entire process of how I was able to find, negotiate, and close on this 16-unit apartment complex at a 3% interest rate, 30-year AM via seller financing. I'm also going to analyze all of the numbers on this property so you can see the returns that I'm getting, and I'm going to do it on my brand new CDS rental calculator. We haven't even released it, but we're going to give you a sneak peek today, and it's going to be released next week. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. Today's video is going to be a little bit different because I came with receipts. I'm going to show you all of the text messages because the majority of this deal I negotiated back and forth with the realtor that brought me this pocket listing. He would then take what I was offering to their realtor and back to the seller. And I'm going to show you the entire negotiation because the majority of it is right on my phone in the text messages. So please forgive me if I'm looking down because I'm going to be reading a lot of these messages. I'll also put them on the screen, but that way you guys can get a very close look at exactly how the back and forth went. Now, I try to maintain relationships with lots of realtors, wholesalers, property managers, and real estate investors in my area, and now even further outside of my area, because these connections help you to find incredible deals. This particular realtor is awesome that brought me this deal, and he was also starting a property management company. And so he was very hungry and went and found a pocket listing via another realtor that he had a relationship with to be able to bring these 16 units to me. This isn't the first deal that I've done with this realtor. He was actually the one that brought me the deal with the storage units that I bought a couple years back. When he brought me the deal, the first thing that I ask for is I want to be able to know if they have any idea on what they're thinking on purchase price. I want to know the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, when the property was built, the taxes, the insurance, and then I want to dive into, do they have washer and dryer hookups? Are they in good shape? What's the quality look like? And just get as much information as I can so that then I can plug in all the numbers and be able to analyze the deal properly. The other thing I want to know is if the rents are at market or if they've got room to move so that we can add value and potentially raise rents as time goes on to make it worth purchasing these at whatever purchase price we're looking at. Sorry, I got sidetracked because I just got a text on another deal that looks very interesting to me, actually out in Detroit, Michigan. So that gets me pumped, but I want you to know I'm looking for lots of properties in the Midwest. So if you are in Indianapolis, Detroit, Cleveland, or a market that you feel like is a great place for me to be, those are the ones that I'm focusing on right now. But please hit me up on Instagram at Chandler David Smith and send me your deals. After looking at all the details on this property and analyzing it, I put together an offer and I was told that they might potentially be open to seller financing. And so I put together this big breakdown. I've since fine-tuned this breakdown after putting in lots of offers, but it still gave them a great idea of how I was looking at the property and what was important to me when it came to seller financing terms. And so I'm just going to put this up because this is what I offered. I sent this to my realtor, he sent it to their realtor, and then the seller looked at it before then responding. In the message, I said, I'm happy with any of these options, can do as low as 10% down or as high as 30% down, kind of structured all of these based on my needs. Open to see what works best for them. I would be good to close after an inspection that I could get done in the next week. Can move quickly if needed. Maybe talk to them and pitch them on whatever makes the most sense for them because any of these make sense for me. Now, a lot of times I like to coach my realtors. This realtor's awesome and knew how to do whatever we were going to do, but a lot of times I want them to kind of present my offers and try and figure out what the hot buttons are for the seller, because if I was there in person, that would be my goal. Figure out what they need tax-wise, what they need money up front, what's going to make the most sense for them, and then structure my offer around that so that it can be a win for both of us. This is what we got back. I realize this isn't what you were hoping for or expecting. $650,000 per fourplex, total sales price of $2.6 million. Half down would be a $1.3 million purchase price if we did the carry at 4.5%. Amortized over 30 years, balloon in 5 years. Thanks, Eric. So I responded, woof. I pushed the numbers as much as I could on that chart. I usually like to get a 12% cash on cash return. At my numbers, I was right around 8 on all of them. I can have a tiny bit of bedroom, but I'm probably stuck at where the chart is at. Wiggle room, haha, not bedroom. Maybe just let them know if they're willing to come closer to my stuff, we can talk, but they're probably way out of my ballpark. At this point, the realtor then went back, had a conversation with them, tried to see if there was anything to do, and sent me this. No, I don't think any of the scenarios made sense for them, I guess. Darn it. Did they say that or just not respond? This was his response. 550 doesn't make sense. As you know, one just sold, same size rents at 855. I'm not sure they even had garages for 675,000. These rents are 1,100 and have garages. So essentially they came back and said, we looked at comparables. This isn't even close to what they should be selling for. This was a worse property and they got way, way more for it. So I responded essentially saying there's no way. I was a little flustered because I'm like, there's no way that sold for that much, but the market is going crazy here. And so I said what I could to try and pull them down, but in reality, I'm like, crap, they know it's worth more than I'm willing to pay. He responded with the comparables they were talking about. It was a fourplex with 2 bedrooms, 1 bath for $675,000. And then he sent me pictures and details, and honestly, it looked pretty comparable to the ones that I was looking at wanting to buy, maybe just a little bit newer. But again, the rents were even lower on the one that had sold than the one I was looking into buying. Here's a picture of the comp if you want to see, so that you get an idea of what the quality of it was and what the purchase price was. At this point, after seeing the comps and the fact that they were holding strong to where they're at, I'm like, you know, whatever. I guess this deal just isn't a good deal for me. We couldn't figure out something that worked, so I'm just going to let it go. I'm out where I'm at. I need to hold to my numbers. Even if everyone around me is buying deals for absurd prices that don't make any sense, I'm not going to do that. And so I made the decision that I would walk. I wasn't going to come any lower, and that's where we left things. Until a couple months later, they reached back out to me. They didn't want to list on the market. They really needed to get these sold, and I could sense the urgency because I got this text. The 5 fourplexes in Rigby are still available and the owners would sell. There's also some land right next to the fourplexes that is approved for 8 more units if you'd be interested in all of that or part or some. So I responded, what's the price and info? Because it'd been a while since I'd talked about this unit. I'd kind of forgot about them. I even asked, are these the ones you've shown me before? He responded, they are 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 1,100 per rent each unit. Each have a detached garage. These are the ones we made an offer on. They are wanting $650,000 per building, but I believe something closer to $600,000 would work. I said, are they offering any seller financing? Do you have addresses? I got the addresses again, and we dove right back into things. I had my realtor reach back out and say, you know, you guys say, what would you be willing to do seller financing wise? And he responded with this. Seller said he would carry contract, but would like to see a purchase price of $625,000 per building. I said, did he mention a rate or if he'd be willing to sell for less without a carry? They didn't say if he would come down more. The rate they threw out was 5 or 6%. He's willing to sell for $600,000, but wants to be cashed out. So no seller financing with that option. If he's going to carry, then 6% amortized over 15 years with a balloon in 5 years. This is what they sent back to me. So again, they are way above where I want to be on this property. I said, does that mean on the 6% that it's the $625,000 purchase price? Let me clarify that with them. So they will do $600 cashed out or $600 with the owner carry at 6%, 15-year AM, and a 5-year balloon. Now, I'm going to give you my response. I'm going to put it on the screen if you want to read it, but I'm not going to read it all. I essentially just said I can't make $600 work at that price, and I was very firm on that. Now, honestly, I don't remember what offer we put back to them. I'm assuming it was something like $600,000 at a 2% interest rate or something like that. Something very aggressive, something that they were not happy with. So I got the text back. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think they will come down any further at the moment. I said, I'm bummed, haha, we are so close. I just don't want to buy something that I lose money on every month. Yeah, I felt like it was close too. I know my realtor is bummed, but I just really want to hold to my cash on cash return criteria. And I know the market was crazy and it still is crazy, but I'm just a firm believer that if you hold out to your criteria, then deals will come together. So now we're at the second point. The deal is dead for the second time, or at least I thought it was. They reach back out a couple days later, and I get a text that says this from my realtor. Chandler, the seller's agent, reached back out to try and re-engage negotiation on the fourplexes. I asked if they would consider another counteroffer, so I guess it might be worth submitting something to them again, possibly your best offer you would be comfortable with. Let me know if you're open to submitting something. Now, at this point, I called him and I wanted to know what the real pain points were and what he thought would push the deal through. So I knew to push some of the other parts of the terms. And what he told me is they really needed money. And so they really wanted 40% down on the deal to be able to make it happen. Now, in complete transparency, I do believe on an open market, these units could sell at $600,000 and probably, especially looking at those comparables, quite a bit more than $600,000. But for me to get the cash on cash return that I wanted, I just wasn't willing to pay more. And that's okay. It's okay to walk away from deals and hold to your specific criteria. However, if I could get the interest rate that I wanted, the purchase price that I wanted, the setup where I can cash flow extremely well, and all I needed to do was put a larger down and thinking maybe that would push them over, I thought that would be a massive win. After thinking that through, analyzing the number, talking to my realtor to try and figure out what their pain points were, I responded with this. $600,000 purchase price, 40% down, 3% interest rate for at least 5 years fixed, 30-year AM is the best I can do. I would cash them out and get my own loan at $500,000. Even at $500,000, that's only giving me a small amount of cash flow, so that would be a stretch for me. Now, this was at a point where interest rates on this particular property were going to be over 8%. I mean, it was peak interest rates, and that's why I just didn't want to do it, even if rates were going to come down, because I didn't want to buy something that I wasn't cash flowing extremely well on day one. So I put this offer forward, and then I waited. And I waited, and I waited.
One eternity later.
And then my realtor asked me this question. If they go for this deal, how soon could you close? Guys, that's a big buying question. So I'm pumped, and I responded, as long as it takes the title company, probably under a week. I just need to do an inspection on all of them. So as long as that takes, and then we could close right after. Okay, I'll let them know and see what they say. Then another day goes by and I get this. Hey, it sounds like the seller is getting close to agreeing to the deal. They said they would have an answer or update between 2 and 3 today, but they did suggest getting the offer written up. So I wanted to see if you were ready to write it up so he could sign it around that time, and they plan to hear from him. So at this point, I'm pumped. I think we're going to push this deal through. We get it written up and we send it over. And I say, yeah, let's do it. At this point, I immediately called my inspector and got it scheduled because we had a very short due diligence period. And I wanted to make sure we did a good job. I was able to take my daughter, Andy, with me, and we went and did a full walkthrough on all 16 units. And I was beyond impressed.
Nice.
Here are just a couple of videos of a couple of the units that were in really good shape. You can see the flooring was in good shape, paint was in good shape. The finishes on the kitchen, I was very impressed at how nice and tidy so many of these units were. Bathrooms looked great, bedrooms were sizable, there was a nice living area. Overall, these units blew me away. Now, during due diligence, you can find a lot of stuff, especially with a good inspector. And again, these properties were built in 2006, so they're almost 20 years old. You've got water heaters that are probably at the end of their usable life. You've got roofs that are getting near the end of their usable life. That doesn't mean they're going to just crap out, but it does mean there's a little bit of a risk factor. And so with that and with some of the windows, I put together everything that I felt like was close to the end of its life, and then a couple things that already were, some of the flooring and other things that had to go. Putting together this list, I am being completely honest, and I justify my reasoning for the expense that I'm putting on all of these things, but also they don't need to be changed right now. And this is where it gets a little hairy in the due diligence, because essentially I was looking at it saying, hey, I know I'm going to need to fix these things. They're going to be big expenses, and that is going to affect my bottom line. And so that's how I put the number together. Now, I ended up asking for just over $70,000 on these 16 units back at closing. A lot of times I can find, in this particular property, I probably could have found $80,000 or $90,000 worth of stuff to justify. I mentioned the stuff that I didn't list that we found in the inspection, and then I went after the big hitters, the windows that were damaged, the roof that was aged, the water heaters that was aged. I put all of that together and asked for the $70,000 plus. The majority of the time, I want to find a way to ask for double what I actually need, because usually people respond with half. And I told my realtor, I said, look, this is what I'm asking for, and I don't want you to tell them that, but if I can get $35,000, this deal works for me because I know that's going to be able to cover my expenses and put me in a very comfortable place where I know this is a home run deal. On these, we felt like there was room to bump rents another $100 and switch it over so that the tenants would be responsible for utilities to make the numbers on this property absolutely incredible, and because they needed to be raised to where the market was. And so that's something we planned on doing over time. But with that being the case, we want to make sure these units are in tip-top shape. And so some of the units, if tenants leave or if we were going to justify those kinds of rent increases, we needed to get those units up to the proper standard. You never want to go into due diligence trying to screw people over or trying to restructure or redo your deal. This was stuff that I had inspected that my inspector said, hey, this is at the end of its life and you're going to have to spend this to get it fixed. I went and got bids on roofs, on the windows, on the flooring, on all of the things that we listed to be able to justify that price. But again, I also understand that a lot of it is still working and probably will work for another 1, 3, 5, maybe even 10 years on some of it. So I'm not trying to take advantage of the seller, but I'm also trying to protect myself knowing I've got the risk of these expenses. And that's why going into it, I like to offer double in hopes that they'll come back and agree to at least half. All right, now that we've covered all of that, this is the exact text that I sent to my realtor. He put that up in the addendum and we asked for it. And we got a response back that pretty much said, you suck, the deal's done. We are not going to give you a single dime for any of these things. You've pushed us too hard. We're at where we're at. Either take the deal as it is or walk.
You need to leave.
And at this point, I just knew where I wanted my numbers to be. And I know it seems silly, but that extra $35,000 was really important for me to be in the place that I wanted to so that I felt like we were protected and we had stuff set aside so that I was meeting the criteria that I wanted to meet. And so I told my realtor, I'm like, hey, I just don't think I'm going to go through with it. I know we're right there, but this is what we need. These things are going to need to be fixed. A lot of them need to be fixed right now, especially if we're going to get new tenants or if we're going to justify the increases. That's going to be money we're going to spend, and we're not buying the property at a price where I can justify putting it into it. And so I told them, sorry, I'm not going to be able to pull it off. And my realtor, being the incredible stud that he is, said, hold on, let me do some work. Let me see if I can make this happen. He then reached out to the other realtor and he said, here's the deal. He's going to walk, but we are $35,000 away from putting this deal together. If you can help me put this together, we'll be done. They went back and forth. My realtor came to me being someone that was starting a new property management company. And he said, Chandler, I'm going to do an incredible job as a property management company. If you use me to manage your properties, I'm going to kick in some of my commission. The other realtor has agreed to kick in some of his commission. And I think they've maybe even worked out something with the seller, whatever that looks like. And this is where we're at. We can get you that extra $35,000 to put this deal together. And I said, dude, you are incredible. Thank you so much. Let's do it. Now, one question I wanted to address that I know I get asked a lot when it comes to these seller financing deals is how does that work with the seller being the bank? You just go to the title company and they handle all of it. They put the paperwork together for us. They made sure the terms were there with the 30-year AM, with the 5-year balloon, the 3% interest rate, the purchase price of $600,000 per unit. And they put together everything where they work as the third party that then I pay my rent, my taxes, my insurance to make sure that all of that comes in every month and then gets to the seller. And it's a very inexpensive fee that you pay them to make sure that goes smooth and make sure that both parties are protected and it's handled properly. Just because I know a lot of people have a hard time believing that these deals are out there, I wanted to show you what my monthly payment looks like. And so you can see this is my long-term escrow. Every month I'm paying $5,907. And then I wanted you to be able to see what came in this month in February 19th Each of those were from each of the 4 units. And we've had a water heater and 1 vacancy the last couple months, but I'll show you the last 2 months as well. We'll have those pop up here just so you can get an idea of how much has been coming in, even though we've had some weird things. I did want to clarify that the mortgage, this number right here, is for all 16 units. However, when I showed each of the rents that are coming in, they're broken up into 4 deposits. Each of those deposits is for 1 building or 4 units. That's why there are 4 of them. That was after we were able to get the rents up to $1,200 and get the tenants paying for those rents. That's after we've already paid management, any expenses on the building, but it's before we've paid the mortgage. Hold to your numbers and believe that once you've set your criteria, you can find deals that meet that criteria. And there's so many other deals I've chased, just like this one, that I've walked away and never heard back from them. But a lot of deals you'll hear back. A lot of times they'll bend early on. But I promise you the deals are there, especially if you find someone that's needing to sell, not wanting to list, not wanting to deal with the hassle, and wanting to structure it in a way that works for them. All right, this video has gone way too long, but I want to show you right now what the numbers look like on this property, because I promised we would. And we're going to tease the new CDS rental calculator so you can see what it looks like with the facelift. There are lots of new features that I'm not going to share in this video, so you're going to have to wait until another couple videos down the road, but we will show you the facelift as we analyze this deal. I'm going to analyze this as just one of the 4 units. The cash-on-cash return, cap rate, all of that stuff is going to be the same whether I do them all together or separate. The only thing is the cash flow at the end, you're going to see we have that times 4. So the purchase price is $600,000. The down payment was 40%. The interest rate is 3% on a 30-year AM, or 30 years to pay off. The rents are $4,800. I like to include a 5% vacancy, a 12% maintenance, and a 6% management. Now, obviously, you can see by the numbers I just showed you on what we've got coming in, it's a lot higher than what these expenses are because we haven't had major expenses, but we like to plan for them because, again, the roof and these other things, they happen, and so we want to set aside that money for those expenses. The insurance on each building is $900 and the taxes are $4,000. So we're going to click run the numbers, and you can see with the 40% down, that makes this property a 9% cash-on-cash return. Now, the reason that I want to mention this is usually I like to hold to at least a 10, and I prefer a 12 cash-on-cash return. I used to hold the higher than that, but again, I want to keep my deal flow going, and I'm very happy with those kinds of returns. But just like I do when I get a lower down, I want to do the same with a higher down when it comes to sticking to if there is only 25% down. So if you go back to just 25% down instead of the 40% down, you can see this property is going to be an 11.47% cash-on-cash return. Not quite my 12, but still something I'm pumped on. I don't know if we'll see 3% interest rates in the future. So in 5 years when I need to refi, we'll see where we're at. But I'm going to have a ton of equity in these properties because they're in an awesome location. Over the next 5 years, I'm going to have awesome cash flow. And I'll hope we have reasonable interest rates so that I can refinance or look at other options of maybe refinancing and pulling a ton of cash out of these deals because they've gone up in value and because I've had 40% down. So we'll have to see where I go with this property, but those are the numbers. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've got any questions, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future videos. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.